Hello, listener, and welcome to Decoding the WSL, the podcast dedicated to the stats and facts of the WSL. We are here today to preview game week 9 of the WSL. I am joined today by two big guests. Firstly, we are joined by podcast regular Tom Maher. Tom, how are you doing?
Hi, Jacob. Yeah, I'm good. Excited for another weekend of glorious WSL action.
Nice, yeah, me too. And secondly, we have Laura Howard, who I can no longer say has a 100% record on nail stat. Laura, how are you doing?
All the worse for you calling that out.
Sorry, I had to allude to it. But yeah, so today we're going to be looking at game week 9 of the WSL. The first game of the weekend is a Manchester derby between City and United. In the reverse fixture, United won 4-2 with an Elatoon hat-trick. Man City have had 7 WSL wins in a row and currently sit top of the WSL. And United, who were unbeaten, lost to Villa on the weekend. So, Laura, I'll come to you first. How do you see this game going?
I think it'll be really, really interesting. I think at the moment, like on form, as you say, you kind of got to look at it, and City are the team that stands out. Obviously, had really strong form, and I think you look at that in terms of the big games that they've had so far this season. Or not big games, but kind of your games against your staple top 4 clubs of your Arsenals, your Chelseas. You look at that opening game, and I think I was maybe a little bit concerned after watching that game. I thought Chelsea didn't really get out second gear, and City looked like they struggled to challenge. But I think since then they've really almost proved my perception of them wrong from that first game. And obviously that was away from home at Stamford Bridge, but you're kind of looking at it and going, will they be able to sustain this? And then they go and welcome Arsenal to the joy, and actually do a really, really good job there. Put in a strong performance. I do think that Arsenal City fixture is always one of those ones where it's like it could go either way, and it was another one of those messy, scrappy 3-2, games where you've got a late equaliser. But I always kind of felt like they were going to come out with the win, even when Chloe Kelly scored. I don't know. It didn't feel like the game was over, and one of the team was going to take it. And I think up to that Kelly goal, it felt like City had been maybe the better side for portions of that match. And maybe that was more a reflection on Arsenal. But I think they've clearly shown that they've been able to step up. They've gelled under the new manager, under Andre Jegler. They're getting some of their best players back. I think Alex Greenwood will still be a big miss if she's still out, which I think she will be. So kind of interesting to see how maybe United set up to maybe target her absence. Because I think that will be a much bigger test when you're looking at like an informed Jess Park. And obviously this will be an interesting test of that swap. It wasn't a swap deal, but was a swap deal for Clinton and Park. And obviously Park's paid off to be the better form player at the moment. How that will transpire longer term, who knows? But I think on paper it looks like City are the better team at the moment. But you look at a derby day, and I think you look at these big fixtures, and any team can kind of take it, because I think you look at Chelsea Arsenal from last weekend, and while it was a draw, you kind of go, yes, Chelsea are the better form team here, but this is a fixture you can kind of take in isolation. And I think you can probably do a similar thing with the Manchester derby. So City definitely come in with the momentum, but I think it will still be like a really interesting clash.
Yeah, and Laura, I'm gonna ask you for every game what your prediction is. So if you had to stick your neck on the line, what's your prediction?
Is this a full score prediction or just who's gonna win?
It's a full score prediction.
I think there will be goals. I don't think United ever looked as defensively sure as they have done like previously. So, and I think this fixture does always produce quite a few goals. So maybe I'll go for 3-1 to City. Maybe that's a bit too high. Nice. I don't know. Maybe I can't see United conceding that many, but I don't know. We'll stick with it.
Nice. And Tom, I'll come to you next. How do you see this game going?
Yeah, I think Laura's put it across really interestingly, and something that I found really interesting on the review pod actually that you said, Laura, was about how similar this game is to the one we just saw with Chelsea and Arsenal. And it really is now. Like, I think, the way that it is going to suit City potentially to get a draw out this game. Yeah, it's a really tricky one. I mean, they played in pre-season. It was a 0-0 draw, so it's hard to tell too much from that. And then obviously they played in the Sevens tournament in Portugal as well, and we won't talk too much about that either. But yeah, United hadn't won away at City, I don't think, and before that 4-2 win you mentioned in the build-up, and then last year, and then obviously they won in the FA Cup as well. Away at City, and they've won every game away from home this year. So they've obviously got a really good away record. They're the only team in the WSL to have won every single away game this year. I think something that might go against United is the fact that they're playing midweek on Wednesday, and then obviously you've got a game on Saturday. We've talked a lot about how thin their squad is in comparison to other squads, and that is a quick turnover for a derby game. And PSG are a very good side as well, as much as they haven't shown it in the Champions League so far. So, that's going to be a tricky dynamic for them, especially because City are going to have they're already preparing for the United game now. So, yeah, I think that it's going to be a draw. But I think if I had to choose someone, I'd say City. I think I'm going to go 1-1 as well.
Okay, I am gonna go for a 2-1 City win. I think it could. It's really hard to judge, to be honest, and it could go either way. I kind of see the draw, but I think that City are currently top of the WSL. As I said, 7 games unbeaten. They are the top scorers in the league. So despite United having a strong defence, I think City will have enough to penetrate it. Next is let's go on to Brighton v Leicester. Brighton are at home for this one. In the reverse fixture, Brighton won 1-0 with a Nikita Paris goal, securing the win for them. There are 2 teams who are not in the best of form. Brighton are winless in 4. Leicester are actually winless in 6, but Leicester have got 3 draws in their last 4 games. Tom, I'll go to you first for this one. How do you see this one going between Brighton and Leicester?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was doing a bit of reading on this fixture in the past, and I thought it was really interesting that Leicester kind of have the better record in this fixture. And I feel like maybe it's just because Brighton have been so good the last 2 seasons that's kind of surprising, because you'd think that Brighton would be the ones taking it to Leicester. I mean, Leicester have proven that they can be the fly in the ointment even when they don't play well. They obviously got that late equaliser against West Ham this weekend gone. Obviously, Brighton know a thing or two about getting a late equaliser as well this weekend. I think they were unlucky not to win. Brighton. Rosa Kafaji was particularly impressive in terms of how she got that goal. I really thought it was a sign of a player maturing, that when the goal happens, the ball kind of comes to her and she has a chance to snatch at a shot or recycle it and play it back to Kirby, and she plays it back to Fran Kirby, and Fran Kirby obviously does what Fran Kirby does and gets the ball moving, and then that's where the goal comes from, and she gets her reward then, Rosa Kafaji, for having that kind of mature head in the attacking third. So I think, I think Brighton are going to win this one, but Leicester have proven that they can be a difficult team to play against, and Brighton have there's just something not quite clicking with them, and I think that Leicester will be looking at that and looking at this game and thinking that they can get something from this game. But I'm going to go 2-1 to Brighton, though.
Laura, how about you? Do you think? I think Leicester have shown good resilience this season. Do you think there's a chance they can get something out of this game, or do you see it the same way as Tom, that Brighton might just edge it?
Yeah, I think I'm on the side of Brighton just edging it. I think Leicester have been really resilient, and I don't think it will be an easy fixture for Brighton. I think it will be one of those ones where you're kind of labouring to a win and maybe struggling to score, especially with kind of losing Adjuman, their starting striker, and hadn't really clicked before that, and now you're kind of dealing with reworking the front line. Maybe we see Rosa Kafaji start again this week after her late impact, and I think that might help. But I think, I kind of just agree with Tom in that neither team has really, really impressed me yet this season. I think Brighton's ceiling is far higher, and I think it's hard with Leicester because you kind of look at them as you have more. I have personally have more tendency to praise them than teams like Liverpool and West Ham, and obviously they're marginally ahead in the league table. Well, not even that marginally. They've picked up 6 points compared to just the 1 point for either of those teams, and they're ahead of Everton. So, I think you kind of but I think that's for like the players and the staff. They feel like they're outperforming the level they're at in terms of I'd have them ranked 12th as a squad and kind of for on paper. But then you kind of look at it and you're like, well, as a club, you've kind of really let down your players this season. So maybe I shouldn't be giving you so much praise because you have every possibility to be higher than that. But I do think they have outperformed maybe where they are at as a squad so far this season and have the capability of putting teams like Brighton under a bit of pressure. But I especially in Crawley, I can't see Brighton not coming away with a win from this one. And Leicester's troubles in front of goal, I think will maybe catch up with them in this fixture as well. I probably predict maybe 1-0 or 2-0 win to Brighton. I can't see Leicester scoring.
Yeah, I think we've got a full house because I'm going to go with a Brighton win, and similar to Tom, same as Tom, I'm going to go 2-1. I wouldn't be surprised if it was kind of maybe 1-1 and Leicester nicked another point, but I'm going to go with the Brighton win. Next up, and I kind of should have said that the Brighton Leicester games Sunday at 12 in that usual slot as per 3 other games, one of them being West Ham Everton. Last season this fixture was a 2-0 win to West Ham. Shakira Martinez and Vivian Asseyi with the goals. It's obviously a kind of very different West Ham to what they are now. West Ham obviously in their last game got their first point against Leicester. Everton have not won since the opening day. So again, similar to Brighton v Leicester, kind of two teams who are struggling really to pick up consistent points. Laura, I'll come to you first. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I think this is quite hard to call actually. Well, I think for West Ham this is a really, really, really important fixture. I think Tom's or one of you said it in the kind of review pod from last weekend. But the fact that you look at West Ham's upcoming fixtures and they've got United away, which that's a really tough fixture, and then they've got Liverpool before the winter break, and you're thinking you need to be winning that Liverpool game, and you don't want to be going there with the pressure of this is the first time we can potentially like get a win this season. So I think coming into this one, it's like we need to get that win before the pressure's on, and we're maybe competing with Liverpool. Like it's going to be a big build talking point fixture if neither of those sides have a win by that point, and it's not likely that Liverpool are going to get one. They're playing Chelsea and Arsenal between then, so that's very much where Liverpool maybe will be looking for their first win of the season, and West Ham would want to have gone 3 points clear at that point and maybe started. And I do think we start to see West Ham teams turn a corner at some point, and they'd want to do that a lot sooner than January. I think they did it sooner than January last season. I think this has been the worst start to a WSL season in maybe ever, or certainly up to last weekend. So I think the pressure is certainly on a home match in Dagenham, and you look at the kind of fixtures coming up, it's kind of unequivocally a must-win game. But then, Kelly Gago coming into form for Everton, and I think Everton have maybe been underperforming a little bit. I think they've been a bit of an enigma for me so far this season. They had that really good first opening game against Liverpool and looked really good, and there was all this excitement, new era for Everton, and kind of the signings look really promising, and then they just haven't really delivered on that. And I think they've shown potential in that. I think last weekend against City there was elements of we can maybe grab something here, and you definitely on paper maybe put them down to beat West Ham at this point. But I also think they have underperformed, and they have that capability of going there and not really doing an awful lot. So I found this one really tough to call because we haven't seen Everton really get that rhythm that we maybe expected them to get at this point in the season. And West Ham do have like a lot of attacking talent. It's just they're not utilising it at the moment. So they have that potential. I just don't see it clicking. So maybe I think my head's going like Everton win, but also maybe a draw. Yeah, I find this really hard to call. I'll go for a 1-1 draw. It's slightly underwhelming.
Yeah, Tom, do you agree with that, or do you think something's going to give and someone's gonna get a win for the first time in a while?
Yeah, I think I do agree with Laura. I had a 1-1 as well for this one. I remember covering this game last year, and it was the most miserable weather. And I remember just feeling so sorry for Brian Sorensen after the game. You know, a huge coach trip back up to Liverpool after watching his side lose 2-0. And I just feel like sometimes with Everton, they give you a kind of false impression of what they're like, because they play against City. I thought they were brilliant against City. You know, they were actually unlucky. Not, like Laura said, they're unlucky not to get something out of that game. Like Ornella Vignola has that brilliant shot that beats Yamashita, all ends up and hits the inside of the post, comes out. That shot could easily go in. But then, you know, they come up against a side they should be beating, and, you know, they draw with Leicester or they lose to London City Lionesses at home. You know, it feels like they kind of struggle under that pressure of needing to take control of games like this and really push the initiative. And I think from a West Ham perspective, I think they had a lot to be encouraged by from their performance against Leicester, but I just think their defence doesn't look like one that's going to keep a clean sheet anytime soon. I know they came within a minute of keeping a clean sheet, so maybe that's an unfair thing to say, but I just feel like they just don't look confident whether they're defending or they have the ball in their own box, in and around their own box. They look like they could make a mistake, and I think a player like Kelly Gago or another Vignola could certainly take advantage of that. But I think a 1-1 draw is probably going to be not really suit either team, but I think that might be the result.
Yeah, I think this feels like the hardest set of fixtures to predict across the board. I feel like just looking at the rest of the fixtures, at least like 5 out of the 6 games are kind of could go either way. I'm going to go one way on this. I can definitely see the draw, but I'm going to go for Everton to take it 2-1. I just haven't been convinced by West Ham this season. They obviously did get that point against Leicester, but they still failed to hold on. So I think although Everton haven't had the best run of results either, I see them kind of nicking the win. We've kind of spoken about teams who perhaps aren't in the best form, but next let's go on to 2 teams who are coming off the back of some really good results. It is Aston Villa v London City Lionesses. Aston Villa obviously beat United away last weekend, a big 1-0 win, and they've only lost 1 game this season. And London City Lionesses, on the other hand, are coming off a big win against Tottenham. It's 6th v 7th in the WSL, which makes it very hard to call. Tom, I'll come to you first. How do you see this one going? Because I think we could be in for a really good game here.
I really hope so, Jacob. I think like these two have played some great football this year, and like you said, it's coming together for London City Lionesses at the moment. That midfield 3 is one of the best in the league, really. I mean, Graske Oro, Saki Kumagai, and Kosovari Aslani, those are 3 of the best players in the league, and I think that midfield 3 is almost as good as any other in the league, really. You know, they've only played twice before, I think, these two, when Villa were in the Championship, and Villa won both games. They're quite narrow wins, but yeah, obviously can't really tell a huge amount from those games. But I think, you know, 6th versus 7th, I think that Villa are going to win this game. I think the fact that they're at home makes me feel quite confident that they will win this game. As much as London City's Lionesses have been much better, I think Villa will have too much for them. But, you know, again, Villa are a little bit like, when I feel like they're performing better against the bigger teams, like the teams that, you know, they drew with Leicester at home, whereas they are beating Man United away. It's like trying to work out what kind of tactics work for you when you're meant to be dominating a game, when you've got that onus on you from start to finish. To, you know, you mentioned in the review pods, Jacob, that they're struggling for goals, and that's very indicative of a team that's, struggling to kind of dominate games and exert their control over games, which they definitely have the potential to be able to do, as opposed to kind of counter punching, which they're so effective at. But I do think they'll win this game. I think Villa will keep a clean sheet as well. I think 2-0 to Villa.
Laura, do you agree with that, or can you see London City Lionesses getting something out of it?
Yeah, I think I do agree with that. I think it's a really interesting matchup, actually, because I think so far I've kind of seen London City Lionesses as a team that can get a goal and have been fairly comfortable in front of goal. Obviously, the fixture against Liverpool may be a bit of an outlier there, only getting that last minute penalty. I'm probably be proven wrong here, but even against like Arsenal, they get the opener. Against United, they still score, and yeah, like I feel like they have been competent in front of goal, whereas I think Aston Villa are the opposite, where they've had a really strong defence and then maybe struggled in front of goal. So I think it will be really interesting, but I do agree. Like I think Villa's defence and maybe where London City have been let down is their kind of the conceding goals or even conceding penalties. And I think maybe that will play into Villa's hands a little bit in that they've got a strong defence to counter London City Lionesses, and that actually maybe one of the weaknesses that they can target is one of their weaknesses too, and that will aid them in kind of finding that rhythm and getting goals. And I do think that will come for Villa too. It's just finding that right combination up front. So I think I agree that I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game necessarily, but I think Villa will get the win on this occasion. But I think it should be. Again, it's another one that's just really, really hard to call. Like I wouldn't be surprised if I'm completely wrong on that. I'll go. I don't want to be another boring weekend of fixtures, but I might just go for a 1-0 with the kind of flow of what Villa have been doing so far this season. But I can also see. Yeah, I find that. Sorry, I'm just confusing myself here and going around in circles of like maybe this could be high scoring, but I'll stick with my 1-0 prediction. And I also want to say that I was watching the highlights of Villa's game from the weekend, and Natalia Arroyo looks so cool, her outfits and stuff. So fully respect it.
That's good analysis on Natalia Arroyo's wardrobe. I'm going to go against the both of you again. I'm going to go for the draw here. I've gone 1-1. I think it's really hard to tell because Tom, you said before about kind of obviously Villa had the really good result against United, but then have had a couple of draws where you maybe would have expected them to win. So I'm going to go for another draw here. Villa have been the queen of draws with 4 this season, I think. So I'll go with a 1-1 draw. Let's move on to the final game at 12 on Sunday. I'm hoping between the three of us, this one might be a bit more unanimous. It is Liverpool v Chelsea. Last season, Chelsea won this 1-0, so it was a tight game. Aggie Beaver-Jones last-minute winner, sealing the win for Chelsea. Chelsea obviously remain unbeaten still in the WSL, but obviously it's now slipped down to second given City's win on the weekend. And Liverpool got their first point of the season against Brighton. Laura, I'll come to you first. Do I even say, do you think Liverpool get anything out of it? Maybe I'll just ask, how many will Chelsea win by instead?
I thought we were all going to say Liverpool win here. I think, obviously, you kind of think Chelsea will win. Although I would absolutely love this to be one of those shock results where Gareth Taylor masterclass, coming up against some old foes. And what you kind of mentioned in the review about that last fixture, last fixture that Chelsea lost in the league being that 4-3 defeat to Liverpool, it would be rather poetic for Liverpool's first win to come against. And I do feel like I might be misremembering this, but Liverpool did fairly well against another top of the table team. Was it City that they performed quite well against? So. Can't fully write them off. I am kind of got my fingers crossed in a fan way, but at the same time, it's so hard to look past the quality of Chelsea. I think in an Emma Hayes season, I'd be predicting this, or even Chelsea last season, I'd be predicting this. Like 5 or 6 goals. But the Chelsea we've seen so far this season in these fixtures hasn't been like super, let's run away with it, let's score as many goals as we can, let's get everything we can out of this fixture, run up the goal difference, be absolutely cutthroat. We saw them kind of struggle against Leicester at home at Kingsmeadow, only get a 1-0 win there. And I think they've kind of been playing this back five with maybe a view to the Champions League and Europe and settling that in, although you think that, and then they rock up to Arsenal and they play a back four, which was actually a kind of masterclass from Sonny Van Pastor. So you've got to respect it. But at the same time, who knows what they're going to rock up to Liverpool with? But I can imagine they're going back to that back five. I don't think they'll feel particularly threatened by the Liverpool kind of that they won't need to pack the midfield in the same way and see those. And I think they'll want to have Carpenter. And Baltimore bombing down those wings. I think that'll be really hard for Liverpool to deal with. I also don't think Liverpool can really trouble them in defence, so I can very much easily see them winning this, maybe 3-0, I'll say.
Yeah, I think I completely forgot about the City game. Obviously, Liverpool City was very close. And I just kind of was thinking back of Liverpool's last couple of games, and actually against City, Spurs, and Brighton. They went 1-0 up in all three of those games, and obviously lost the lead against City and Spurs, but got the point against Brighton. So yeah, maybe we shouldn't write Liverpool off. Tom, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, and Liverpool have occasionally done this against, like when they got promoted, and they had Chelsea on the first day of the season, and they won 2-1. With Katie Stengel scoring. I don't think she did anything too big this weekend either. But I think I can't see Liverpool taking anything in this game. I have a feeling this might be when we see Sam Kerr actually get her first start. We were a bit shocked when Aggie Beever-Jones wasn't in the squad on Saturday, and Bonpastor kind of explained that she was fine after London City game, but she didn't really recover in the way that they wanted from a dead leg. So she's basically bent her knee in the wrong way, is what Sonia Bonpastor said, and basically said that she probably has more of a chance of playing against Liverpool, but might not in the midweek. And however much that's going to be Sonia Bonpastor mind games or not, who knows? But I think I could see maybe them being a bit safer in this game and either playing Macario or Sam Kerr instead. But I think that Liverpool will. I hope that they'll put up a fight. I think if Chelsea press them high, I think that there's potential there for them to rack up a few goals, because they've been struggling. They definitely are playing better football than they were at the start of the season. But even in the game against Brighton, they almost gave away a goal from just putting pressure on themselves. I can't remember which Liverpool defender it was, but they kind of lost the ball in front of goal, and then after a pass from Kirby, and Brighton really should have scored. And you can't really afford to do that when you've got probably Sam Kerr and Vika Kaptein or Sergio Nuskin hovering around, looking for whatever scraps they can feed off. So I think Chelsea will win this one. I think Chelsea will win 2-0.
Yeah, Tom, I'm in agreement with you. I've gone for a 2-0 Chelsea win as well, for pretty much the same reasons. But I think Liverpool being as I said, they've competed in their last couple of games, so I don't think it'll be a smashing. But let's go on to the final game of the weekend. Probably what some of you, all of you, have tuned in for. It is the North London derby on Sunday at 2:30. I feel like we're all kind of sporting our team's colours almost. I'm wearing a Spurs kit. Laura and Tom are both in red. And yeah, it's a big game, the North London derby. It's actually at Brisbane Road this year, not at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. This in the fixture last year, Arsenal won 3-0. Alessio Russo scored an early goal after 2 minutes, which really kind of killed and set the precedent for the game. Both teams are level on 15 points, which is, I think, not something that we would have expected at all at the start of the season. Tom, I'll come to you first. How do you see the North London derby going? Obviously, kind of Arsenal have been very dominant historically. It's been a positive start to the season for Spurs, but do you see them getting out of anything of the game, or is it an Arsenal win?
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I think it's going to be a really good game. You've got two teams that, Arsenal probably underperforming and Spurs overperforming. So that always makes for an interesting derby match when they come in, when, you're coming up against each other. And Spurs have had some good results in this fixture, not too long ago. Obviously got that win and then that draw as well, a little bit further back. I think Spurs beat Arsenal in pre-season 4-3. I mean, how much we can read into that is hard to say, but I'm sure that that'll be helpful in Martin Ho's team talk to say, you've done this before, like we did it earlier this year, even if it was a pre-season game. I think Arsenal are going to really miss Kim Little in the midfield. I think Chelsea really exploited kind of space through the middle, especially Alyssa Thompson's goal, just running through the middle where, Kim Little might have provided some kind of opposition there. It'd be interesting to see who starts in her place, whether it'll be Victoria Pelova again, or if it'll be Kaya Cooney-Cross, or what the kind of decision will be from Renée Slegers in this game. And we might have a bit of a better idea of what that decision is going to be after Arsenal play away in Germany, obviously play Bayern Munich midweek, so in the Champions League. So that could play into Tottenham's hands as well. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's interesting what you mentioned about the wings. I think for Tottenham, in the London City game, because that's a big strength for Arsenal. And Olivia Smith was fantastic down the wing when she came off the bench for Arsenal against Chelsea. And, I think if she's able to start this game, then I think she would cause Chelsea some real issues. She made 3 key passes in that Chelsea game. That's more than any other Arsenal, or 3 more than any other Arsenal player, and more than any player on the pitch. And she was only on the pitch for 28 minutes. So, that's really impressive. And Russo probably, I think, had one of her best games against Chelsea as well this weekend for Arsenal. 11 out of 12 duels won, 2 out of 2 successful dribbles, almost set up the winner, scored the equaliser, and also had 4 tackles, which is a joint most in the match. So, I think Arsenal can take a lot of confidence from that Chelsea game and maybe have a little bit of fire in their belly. But I also think that Tottenham shouldn't go into this game thinking that they're going to lose, that it's an automatic defeat, because they're on the same points. They've shown they can mix it and compete. And, it'll be interesting to see how far they've come since that 5-1 defeat to City, because this is obviously a similar fixture, and how they set up in this game and is going to be interesting, especially because it was quite similar in that City game where City's wingers, especially Carolyn and Fujino, had an absolute ball against the Tottenham left and right back. So I think that's going to be a key area in this game. I think Laura might have gotten my head about boring predictions, so I'm feeling like I'm just going to try and throw something and see if it sticks. So I'm going to go Arsenal 5, Tottenham Hotspur 3. Is what I'm just going to put it out there. North London derby, rules aren't going to matter. It's just no defending, all attacking. Let's have it. That's my prediction.
Well, you've heard it all there. We're in for an absolute thriller. I'm gonna go second. I'm not gonna go 5-3. I think it will be a closer game than we maybe would have thought. I'm looking forward to this one. I'll be there. It's at Brisbane Road. I'm quite excited because I think they've opened up quite a few stands at Brisbane Road. We're used to kind of seeing one stand open, so hopefully we can get a kind of good crowd there. I still do expect Arsenal to win. I think I've gone 2-1 Arsenal. I think from Spurs, I think it will be interesting to see what our team selection is, because at the start of the season, we saw both Katinka Tandberg and Beth England start together, whereas in the Liverpool game 2 games ago, it was Beth England that played and Katinka Tandberg on the bench, and then at London City Lionesses, it was Katinka Tandberg that started and Beth England on the bench. But you would assume that Beth England would start, especially you want your captain starting a North London derby. But Tandberg's been really impressive, so I'm not sure whether Martin Ho will kind of go back to the two of them playing together. And then if they do, what that means for Olivia Holt, will we see her kind of out on the left? But yeah, I think, Tom, you mentioned, we've spoken about the wings. I think also when Spurs played Chelsea, I thought the wings for Chelsea were important. I thought Alyssa Thompson had a really good game against Ashley Neville, and Ritten Cannerud on the other side. So yeah, I think Arsenal's wingers could be key to this one. Laura, I'll come to you. Finally, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, I think a really exciting match. I think any North London derby is exciting, and I think more and more so, especially this season with Martin Ho kind of coming in. I was at the pre-season fixture between the two. It's quite depressing, really, but a blot on my footballogy, really. But I think that maybe you can't actually read too much from that fixture, just with like kind of the nature of who was playing. The errors that were made were kind of errors rather than, oh, this is a problem with this formation, this team's targeting this specifically. But I think obviously we did see Tottenham press a lot higher up the pitch, and Arsenal didn't actually really deal with that. But then you had Borber in goal for that fixture, and she seemed to struggle a little bit more with that. So that will be obviously very different coming into this one. Yeah, and I agree. And I also think, to add to kind of both of your points about the importance of the wings in this game, I'd hope to see Smith starting. I think we've seen Mead as maybe someone who inverts a lot more and comes into those middle areas to pack the midfield. So maybe keep her on the bench. Obviously, she can play out wide and hug the sideline a little bit more when she wants to, and is really good at reading the game. But I'd kind of keep her off and start with Smith, get ahead, hopefully through that way from an Arsenal perspective. And I also think really, really strong from Arsenal's perspective that Kaylin Ford had such a good game against Chelsea. I think on the flip side to that is you maybe see how Arsenal started against Chelsea and stick with Ford and Mead on those wings for their encounter with Bayern Munich. And then you're looking at it and going, well, that'll be a third game in the row for wingers starting. And would you do that? Obviously, if Smith can be fit, but I think Smith and Kelly have both come off the back of knocks. So I think that could be quite a big thing in this fixture of how those two are recovering, how Mead and Ford recover from potentially starting 2 games in a row, or whoever does start, kind of what the fitness of those 4 wingers are could be really, really pivotal to kind of the outcome of this fixture. Given that we've kind of identified that as a key area in this game. But yeah, I think I tend to agree with both of you. Like, I see Arsenal maybe getting the win in the sense that Spurs' weaknesses seem like something that Arsenal can exploit. But at the same time, I think we've seen maybe 2 versions of Arsenal turn up this season, and where last season René Schlegers' side's strength seemed to be that you knew they could score, and they scored a lot of goals when they scored. This season, we haven't necessarily seen that in all the season kind of started like that with that win against London City Lionesses. And then it felt like there was a little bit of a drop-off, and that scoring record was a little bit harder to come by. Aston Villa, who struggled for goals, and that was obviously the way that Aston Villa set up. United struggled for goals. And I feel like we felt like we got that goal-scoring version of Arsenal back maybe against Leicester City, even against Chelsea, even though the goals didn't come, it felt like that was still that Arsenal there, fired up. And I think if that continues against Tottenham, I'd be fairly confident an Arsenal win. But I think sometimes you can never predict with an Arsenal side whether they will turn up or whether they will kind of feel a bit thwarted and then struggle to score. But yeah, I really don't like predicting Arsenal, because I don't like predicting them to win because I feel like it's a jinx, but I don't like predicting against Arsenal.
Predict them to win, jinx it.
So yeah, I might abstain on this one.
enough. I think regardless, it should be quite a game, and it will definitely make for an interesting Decoding the WSL podcast next Monday. But yeah, that rounds up the weekends or the coming weekend's action. Before we round up the podcast, let's go on to Aerial Fantasy. I'm going to go first on this one in terms of kind of who are the best picks for this weekend. I think it's really hard this weekend because, as we've kind of just gone through, a lot of the games are really close and hard to kind of call. So it's hard to say who will be the best picks. I've gone for Brighton attackers against Leicester. Although Brighton haven't been that convincing, I think there's an opportunity there for them to score points. I personally have Kiko Saika in my team. I bought her in as a visionary last week. I think she's gone up to like 2.09% owned last time I checked, which is so irritating. She's not a visionary for this weekend, but I'd also kind of go with maybe Fran Kirby as well. And I think the big point scorers this weekend, I think, go all in on Chelsea if you can. Although the only thing is it's very hard to predict who's going to play for Chelsea. Chelsea, the only team that I've predicted to keep a clean sheet, so it could be worth kind of doubling up on their defence if you have or going in. The other thing that I was going to mention was as of a few hours ago, Chelsea announced who's travelling for their Champions League game, and they announced that Hannah Hampton isn't travelling. She has a small injury in her quad. How long she's out for, I don't know. I don't know if she's just kind of being rested for this game. If she's not available for the weekend, Livia Peng is a visionary at 4.5 million, so that could be worth a punt, but there is obviously some risk in that. Chelsea attackers could be worth going in for as well. I think Joanna Ritten-Cannerud and Alyssa Thompson could be big picks, but they haven't started every game, so you are risking kind of putting them in at a high price for them not to start. But I think maybe going in on like I've got Natalie Bjorn in my team. Natalie Bjorn and Millie Bright have started every game this season, as well as Hannah Hampton and Kira Walsh. So yeah, I think Brighton and Chelsea would be my picks. Tom, I'll come to you first. Who are your picks for this week?
Yeah, so I think would want to be avoiding as much as you can Man City and Man United players. I think it's just such a hard one to call, unless you want to put Park or Clinton in there, because one of those two is bound to score. This is the WSL we're talking about. We love a storyline. They will surely deliver for us. The other kind of players that I'm thinking of, I think a Villa defender, even if it's not specifically for this week, I think they just look so good at the back. Like, just in general, it's a good pickup. I've got Patton myself. I think Lynn Vilms is another good shout. Dace Landers as well as another good one. All of those players I think are worthy of consideration. I also think obviously Freya Godfrey was a really popular pick at the start of the season. She was injured. She's come back now. 4.1 million, 16 points. To me, that's a bit of a no-brainer the way she's playing. Even if as well, it's not the best fixture being away at Villa, but she's been playing so well. I think that's a worthwhile pickup. And I'd probably just echo everything that you said as well, Jacob, about Chelsea players. It's just that I'd maybe, if you were thinking of transferring in a Chelsea attacker, I think what I would do is probably wait until after the Champions League game, after Sonia Bonpastel's press conference on Friday, somebody will ask her about Aggie Beever-Jones. And I think if Aggie Beever-Jones is fit to start, then it'd be worth the risk of starting her, I'd say. That would kind of be, I think that would be my thoughts.
And finally, Laura, I'll come to you. Who would be your picks for this weekend?
I don't feel like a very authority on aerial fantasy. I'm not doing particularly well, but I think maybe just to echo what Tom pointed out earlier about Kelly Gago coming into form, and the fact that they're playing against West Ham could be quite a good pick if not a great defence for West Ham. So and especially if she's got 2 goals in 2 games, so looking good there. I'm looking at my own team. I potentially maybe look at a Brighton defender against Leicester, but it might not be a long-term one, so that could be very short-sighted there. I wouldn't necessarily actually make that transfer, but if you're looking at this week in particular. But yeah, I think for me, I'm just going to be looking to get maybe a couple of United players out, and I've got Sandberg in defence, so I think I'll try and get rid of her, and maybe, I don't know what I can do at that price point, but maybe an Aston Villa defender, maybe a Chelsea defender, but I probably can't afford a Chelsea defender. But yeah, stacking my team with Chelsea players. I have Captain, and she has been for Sonia Bompastor levels, she's been very regular in terms of getting minutes and getting points. So generally fairly good shout from a Bompastor perspective. But again, this will probably be the week she's rotated, given it's against Liverpool. I think that's what's even worse about fixtures where you're like, oh, I can pick up a lot of points here. It's also the fixtures where managers tend to go, oh, I can do a bit of rotation here. So yeah, I'm kind of looking at it and seeing how I can recover, because it's not been the best season so far.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, listener. That rounds up the kind of coming weekend's preview, as well as our aerial fantasy picks. Yeah, it's a big weekend. Obviously, someone will be coming. Well, unless it's a draw, someone will be coming from the board disappointed come Monday. But until then, thank you for listening, and thank you, Laura and Tom, for coming on the pod. And we will see you next week. Thank you.